UFC Vegas 97 recently wrapped up, and I'm going to recap the entire card. I'll start with the first fight of the night and then work my way up all the way to the main event. So make sure you guys smash that like button, and if you're new, subscribe. Also, big W to everybody that supports the channel, because the live stream this week was off the chain and you guys were extremely generous with the donos, and from the bottom of my heart, I owe you guys a massive thank you. It means the world to me because you guys helped make this thing possible. So thank each and every one of you. Let's get into this recap. First fight on the card, Nathan Fletcher versus Ziggy Matas Ramaska. Nathan Fletcher's grappling won him the fight. In the first round, he got busted up a little bit, but he was persistent with the wrestling. And even though Ramaska actually ended up on top and hit a couple nice reversals, even had a really awkward inverted triangle at one point, Fletcher in round number 2 gets the fight to the ground, a little more control. Ultimately, he's able to tap out a Ziggy Matas Ramaska, who's kind of a purist striker. Nathan Fletcher comes from a good team, the same gym that Paddy's out of with Next Generation Liverpool. So he's got some solid grappling, and that was the ultimate advantage. I thought it would be leading into the fight, even though he dealt with a little staph infection because this fight was rescheduled from Vegas 96 to this card. Nathan Fletcher's jiu-jitsu is legit. He's good on the ground. He's got good wrestling. He locks in an arm triangle with a tight squeeze, and he gets a nice tap of Ziggy Matas Ramaska. So big W to Nathan Fletcher, and he's an interesting guy to keep an eye on. As far as, good grapplers, solid wrestling, takedowns, and sub-threats, I like what I saw from him. Next fight on the card, Andrade Petroski and Dylan Budka. This definitely wasn't a great fight. Andrade Petroski essentially smothered Dylan Budka, out-wrestling him and just controlling him from top. For majority of the fight, there was a couple striking exchanges and a few punches by both guys landed clean on the feet, but nothing really to ride home about. You look at the way Budka was fighting from the bottom, too, it was abysmal. He was literally just holding on from the bottom, looking for the referee to stand the damn fight up. That's not how you win. Budka seemed more complacent with just staying on the ground, losing a decision, than an actual effort to try and win the fight. Petroski gets on top in every round, and Budka is just holding from the bottom. He's not looking for reversals. He's not looking to escape. He's not looking to throw up submissions. I think it was a mindless game plan. He goes by the mindless Hulk. It was a mindless fucking performance. Negative fight IQ. Budka worries way too much about his gas tank, and I'm going to say this right now, and it's harsh. He should not be in the UFC. The Chad Honeycomb fight on the Contender Series was a snooze fest, and he ended up getting a contract because he was a young kid that came in and won after, a hard-fought performance. You see the first 2 UFC performances, man, they weren't great. And it's not that Budka is absolutely horrible and couldn't beat anybody. It's just at 24, he takes 2 losses in a row. He still has some things to work on. I don't know if learning on the job in the UFC is the best route. Now, after losing 2 straight, does the UFC still keep him around because he's relatively young? Maybe. But he definitely has to work on his get-up game, his reversals, and submission threats from the bottom. And add into all of that, besides a horrible performance, he also missed weight. So a pink slip getting released wouldn't surprise me. Now, of course, Petroski's a pretty crafty vet. He's 7-2 in the UFC at this point, and he's good at dominating fighters in the exact method that he dominated Budka. But regardless of that, it was not so much that Budka lost. It was the lack of effort looking to win and more of the survive to the distance mentality that I absolutely hated. Good win for Petroski, though. Next fight, Jacqueline Amorim versus Vanessa Demopoulos. So really nice armbar by Amorim. I actually perfectly predicted the armbar too in this fight. But there was a tad bit of controversy because Amorim did have her fingers in the glove of Demopoulos. But the issue is, Demopoulos was too focused on trying to alert the referee of the foul that she forgot to defend the armbar, and she gets locked into a submission and loses. You need to focus on fighting through. Now, I understand the referee should have probably said something. I guess he felt it was okay that the fingers weren't deep enough into the glove to call it a glove grab. But when you're overly focused on reffing a fight, like, oh, I got hit low, and then you get hit and you get chinned. Or, oh, they hit me in the back of the head, and then you get finished with ground and pound. Or even in bare knuckle, I remember Alfredo Angulo, his hair was getting grabbed. If you would have sat there and complained, it probably would have been a knockout loss. Instead, he just took it and then he laid that dude out who he was fighting. So this is a scenario where you have to focus on the fight at all times. I am not arguing that it seemed to be a little bit illegal the way Amorim was grabbing at the gloves. But it's ultimately referee discretion. And you just cost yourself the fight by focusing on the flaw or the error, or rather the foul. I'm looking for words. It came to me now. Focusing on the foul as opposed to focusing on fighting out of the armbar. She gets subbed in the first round. Amorim's jiu-jitsu is legit. Another armbar win. That's 2 straight armbars. She's collecting some arms. Either way, even with the controversy, Amorim looked good and she looked like she was on her way to win. She was dominating Demop on the ground. Next fight, Gabriel Santos versus Yizha. Absolutely love this fight. Gabriel Santos looked really good, but we also have to give credit to Yizha, who's an absolute dog. Santos' striking was incredibly crisp and on point. He landed some clean shots with Yizha from ripping at the legs, and even Yizha broke his foot as Santos checked one of the left leg kicks that Yizha was throwing out. Santos landed some good straights. He landed a nice front kick that dropped Yizha. He actually landed 2 front kicks. The second one didn't do the same amount of damage. Yizha was game, but at the end of it, Santos ended up out-grappling the wrestler/grappler in Yizha and beating him at his own game. But I have to say, Yizha showed a ton of heart. And you have to keep a guy like him around because the dude kept trying. He kept coming. Most guys are knocked out from that front kick. They're not going to get back up. What's the reason? Yizha was dreaming of this UFC win, and he gave it hell. He tried so hard. It's just Santos was truly superior. And I've said it, I think that Gabriel Santos is a high-caliber prospect with a really bright UFC future, and I think he really proved it here against a gritty Yizha to go out and win. Dominant fashion, winning pretty much every round, winning majority of the exchanges, and winning on the ground too, where Yizha is at his best. For me, this was a 10 out of 10 performance for Santos. To be honest, he's finishing most guys that he lands that front kick on. I'm telling you, Yizha is just built different, and that's why Yizha is definitely getting kept on the roster, and I'm looking forward to watching Yizha forthcoming. I'm telling you this, he's going to be an underdog in some fights, and I think he can surprise some guys. Because there's certain dudes that his pressure and his relentless style is going to break. It's just Santos is that freaking skilled. Santos looked awesome. This was a huge win for him. It was dominant 30-27 over a really gritty Yizha. And I think the future is so bright. Santos is also training with Chute Box, Diego Lima's team. Listen, you train at that team, I think good things can come. I feel like the way that they fight fits Gabriel Santos. The way that they train fits Gabriel Santos. And I'm going to call it right now. Gabriel Santos, you will see him ranked in the UFC at some point. Maybe not next year. Maybe not the year after. But at some point, Gabriel Santos will be a top 15 contender inside of the UFC. And I am definitely a fan of him. And I'm looking forward to more. Shout out to Gabriel Santos with a huge win. He was also my lock of the card. So it was also pretty dope to see him pull through. Let's keep running. Next fight. André Lima versus Felipe dos Santos. André Lima did a really good job of showcasing that he has more than just Muay Thai. Now, in the first round, it was a competitive striking affair. Dos Santos was at him a little crazy. I believe there was a takedown landed too. The first round's a little blurry, but I remember the chaos from Dos Santos. I scored round 1 for Dos Santos, but then round 2, André Lima showcases his fucking grappling strength. He planted himself on top of Felipe Dos Santos, and Dos Santos couldn't get out of the mount. He's mounted for the whole 5 minutes. Round number 3, Lima recognized, oh, Dos Santos can't stop me on the ground. I out-muscle this guy. I out-position this guy. I out-grapple this guy. And Lima controls him for all of round 3, has the back, nearly locks in a rear naked choke a couple of times. This was actually a great win for André Lima because it got to show that he's not a one-dimensional striker. He's not subpar on the ground. He's actually relatively good at grappling, and he's got really impressive control from the top position, and he's definitely a submission threat. He's only 25. Now, granted, Dos Santos is young too at 23, but right now, Lima, good prospect. I'm really excited about the next 15, 16 months for Andre Lima because I feel like he could put together some nice wins and work his way up to the top 15, especially that he made weight at 125. That was a big test because if he would have missed weight again, he'd be going up to 135. And not that he's too small for 135, but it's definitely better if he can make it, a little bit of a run at 125. Now, I will say I would like to see a bit more volume from Andre Lima in the striking, but I will give him the benefit of the doubt that he is still working on his game and there is still time that is being put in to grow this skill set that he has. He's showing new wrinkles to it, like the grappling control and the takedowns, and I'm sure that a little bit higher volume is something we're going to see out of him over the next 15, 16 months. Trust me, Andre Lima is a guy to watch. You got to put a star around him because I think he will eventually be a top 10 fighter inside of the UFC. I really believe he has the makings of somebody that could do extremely well, and I think he could work his way up to the highest tier. I mean, is he ready for top 15 right now? I don't think it's crazy to say he could match up fairly well with some of the back-enders, but I would rather him get a couple more wins outside of the top 15 to continue to slowly build his skill set. Because, if you rush him to a fight, like let's say with Tagir Ulanbekov or Tim Elliott, right? These things could potentially go awry, or even a Charles Johnson. But I think if you match them up properly with these unranked guys, maybe two more, and you give them maybe 3-4 months between the fights, like Andre Lima a year from now at 26 is going to be significantly better than we're already seeing. So I'm telling you guys right now, you got to get excited about Andre Lima. He's 3-0 in the UFC. He got the freaking bite bonus first ever, and he gets a big win over Felipe Dos Santos here, and I think he's got a bright future in the UFC. So Andre Lima, shout out to him with a massive W, taking out Felipe Dos Santos. And in a sense, I feel like he almost beat him better than Manel Kape did. And Manel Kape's a top contender in the damn flyweight division. So I think that shows that Andre Lima is on his way. He's well on his way. And I will be watching all of it. I can't wait. I'm a big Andre Lima fan. Next fight on the card, Isaac Dulgarian, Brendan Marotte. This was dominance. Isaac Dulgarian took Marotte down in the first, beat the shit out of him for the whole first round. Second round, beat the shit out of him a bit more, and then ultimately locks in the arm triangle and quick tap Marotte's finish. Good ground and pound from Dulgarian, good positional control. He's a monster. His takedowns are crazy. His top game is wild. His ground and pound is on point. He's going to destroy a lot of guys in grappling. The worry would be if he gasses out, but I mean, he did make it later into this second round, and he still seemed to have a good amount of gas left as he was working Marotte from the top position. But Marotte was not resistant at all to the grappling. The only thing Marotte did was survive the 9 minutes. He didn't really surmount any offense. I mean, he did land a couple elbows from the bottom that cut Dulgarian, but besides that, he essentially did nothing, and there wasn't really any scrambles or reversals, right? If Dulgarian takes on some of these guys that can mix it up more, then maybe he runs into trouble. Like he ran into trouble with Christian Rodriguez and ultimately lost a somewhat controversial decision, but still was completely gassed in round number 3. So if you're resistant to him, his very get the fight finish based smash grappling style could ultimately fault him in fights forthcoming, but not against Marotte here. Dulgarian dominated, and I think he's still a pretty blue chip prospect in the featherweight division. Next fight on the card, it was our featured prelim of the night. It was Chris Padilla versus Rongzhu, and Chris Padilla was the first underdog to hit on the card. Chris Padilla came out like a savage. Round number 1, Rongzhu's trying to strike on him a bit, but Padilla's finding some clean shots. And even though Rongzhu is throwing more flurrying combinations and he's closing the gap with big hooks, nothing is really landing flush, and Padilla's landing some decent little straights. And then in round 2, the shot that sold the whole fight, Padilla lands a beautiful elbow, and Rongzhu actually is trying to claim, oh, he hit me with a fingers, he eye poked me. No. It was an elbow that perfectly connected with Rongzhu's eye and completely shut his eye too. We had a doctor's stoppage in this fight. And I thought right when they called the timeout, the way that Rongzhu's eye, I don't know, it kind of looked like he had a golf ball inside of it. I knew that the doctor's stoppage was coming. It's the recap show, so I'm taking a drink. I was pretty impressed with Chris Padilla. He called out Marotte after. I think that's a pretty fair call out. I'd be down to watch that fight. I think it's a competitive fight too. He claims he's the best in the world. I mean, maybe that's a little bit of a far-fetched claim, but you need to have that type of delusion to do well in the UFC. And right now, Chris Padilla's surging. He's 2-0 in the UFC with 2 finishes. He's got an entertaining style. He hasn't been beaten in the octagon yet. He's 5 wins in a row as a pro too. So I think good things are coming for Chris Padilla, and I'm actually down for that Marotte fight. For Rongzhu, I do think they got to keep him around for at least one more. I mean, the dude went through the ringer of hell to win the road to the UFC and earn his way back. Let's not release him after one fight, please. But Rongzhu is now 1-3 in the UFC, which is unfortunate, but still very young at just 24. And he ran into a stern test with Chris Padilla. Taco Padilla doesn't fuck around, and he looks solid. Next fight on the card, it brings us to our main card opener. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash the likes. And if you're new, subscribe. Trevor Peek versus Yanal Ashmouz. You know, this fight didn't really go how I expected. I thought it would be majority striking. And even for Ashmouz, I thought if he was going to have success, it would be with heavy kicks and big punches. Instead, Yanal Ashmouz turned into embrace the grind wrestler all night. It's not a stupid strategy. It's not a stupid strategy. It just kind of frustrates me to watch because I'm a fan of Trevor Peek. I like Trevor Peek a lot. He's got a really fun style. He's super aggressive and offense-minded, and he comes with chaotic shots and just looks to bang. And you know, Ashmouz was timing takedowns and clinch opportunities really well because of Trevor Peek's over-aggression. So Ashmouz was able to grind out a win. Ultimately didn't do a lot as far as damage, and Trevor Peek landed the better punches. I would definitely say Trevor Peek's the better striker of the two, but you know, Ashmouz, you know, he kind of showed a different wrinkle to his game, which is pretty well-timed takedowns and wrestling control. Not a win for Ashmouz that is going to earn him any fans, but still a win, and at the end of the day, it earns him a win bonus, and it's better than taking a knockout loss to Trevor Peek. I still think Peek has some potential. The takedown defense needs some work and maybe the get-ups, but he has really fun striking. He trains with Dwayne Ludwig. I see improvements to Peek's striking. Like, I know people say he has no skill and he's completely reckless. He's definitely reckless and he's definitely unorthodox, but I wouldn't say he has no skill. I actually think Trevor Peek's striking has consistently gotten more accurate, which is something I like a lot. And I do think Trevor Peek has a future in the UFC still. There are fun fights on the table for him. If you got a Yanal Ashmouz on a card or a Trevor Peek fight on the card, what are you guys watching? Yes, Ashmouz beat him in the fight, but Trevor Peek is still the guy I want to watch. So I need Trevor Peek on some more fight night cards. We need to get a Tennessee card going, and we need to get him fighting in a fun stylistic matchup. I want to see him in fun fights because Trevor Peek is a damn fucking banger. And at the end of the day, yeah, he's not super technical or he's not super well-rounded. He's still a dope fighter. And I'm still a big Trevor Peek fan. I was a biased pick for Peek leading into this fucking fight, and I will still be biased towards Peek forthcoming. If you have a grappling option, you're going to give Trevor Peek trouble because he uses wrestling when need be. When he can out-muscle guys, that's a big W in his hat. But in this one here, you know, Ashmouz was significantly better at wrestling, and he showcased Peek. He's still got to work on some things there. But Peek's striking looked good. He's a better striker than Ashmouz. And, you know, that's saying a lot because Ashmouz is solid on the feet. Let's keep running. Next fight on the card. Cody Durden versus Matt Schnell. These two threw down. This is a short notice fight. 4 days notice for Cody Durden. Doesn't matter. He submits Matt Schnell. The first round was a back and forth war. Both guys are hit with big shots. Durden did finish a little stronger, and I do think he stole the round, cutting Matt Schnell's eye. But Schnell hit him with some good punches too. Both guys were stung in the first round, and it was looking like it was going to be a pretty back and forth epic strike fight. No, because Matt Schnell looks to wrestle in round 2, and he gets caught up in that choke. I believe the ninja choke. Let's double check what they called it. Anaconda choke? I thought it was a ninja, but hey, anaconda choke, ninja choke, doesn't matter. The strangle by Cody Durden forced the Matt Schnell tap. Cody Durden, you give him a neck, he's going to fucking squeeze tight. And it was a massive W for him. Durden was looking really good against Bruno Silva like 6 weeks ago before getting caught by a devastating uppercut and getting knocked out. Now coming in and arguably getting a bigger fight against Matt Schnell and going out and submitting him. This is massive for Cody Durden's career. Now, I know this fight was at 135 as opposed to 125, the flyweight division where both of them reside. But it still is technically like a win in the flyweight division. And I think Durden's got some fun fights coming his way. He's got a good style. He's honestly come into his own. I feel like Cody Durden's solid. Now, for Matt Schnell, this was a rough loss, and he decided to put the gloves down afterwards. So I guess we have a retirement by Matt Schnell after this one. And I don't think that it's a horrible idea. I wish we would have got a post-fight interview out of him. I'm sure there must be a media day interview with Matt Schnell that I haven't seen yet. But now I'm kind of curious if it exists. Should I go on MMA Junkie? I'll look it up as I'm talking about this. But either way, I think that the way Cody Durden submitted Matt Schnell was rather impressive, because I thought if anybody had a submission option, it was probably actually the side of Matt Schnell, because Cody Durden's been put in bad spots before. Does he have an interview? No. No interview from the losers. Okay, no MMA Junkie interview from Matt Schnell. Well, I don't know. Maybe I got to reach out to Matt Schnell. He can give me his official retirement speech or something like that. Maybe he'd be down for it. Either way, good win for Cody Durden. Nice submission, and he's coming along nicely. And he's a fun player at 125. Good style, and you're a badass for stepping in on 4 days' notice and then going out and getting a finish like that in a barn burner. W. Absolute W. And he got a performance of the night bonus. There's the $50K. Next fight on the card, Steve Garcia, Kyle Nelson. This fight was absolutely sick, and this is why you ride the Steve Garcia knockout train until it motherfucking crashes. Steve Garcia is a savage. Fight starts, though. Kyle Nelson ends up on the back of Steve Garcia, and he's trying to threaten with a rear naked choke. But Steve Garcia, a crafty vet, stays calm, eventually works his way to the top, ends up throwing some gnarly ground and pound, and actually catches Kyle Nelson with an elbow towards the back of the head, which caused a visible lump, actually, which we saw after the fight was stopped. Referee warned him, but didn't take a point, didn't pause the action, and Steve Garcia continued with vicious ground and pound. Kyle Nelson trying his absolute hardest to survive, but he's smothered towards the cage. He's on the ground. He's rocked from the shot, and then Steve Garcia dropping more heat on him. Nasty elbow from Garcia from top position with Kyle Nelson, like kind of resting his back against the cage. Nelson goes down, covers up, and Steve Garcia gets another first-round knockout. Steve Garcia is on fire right now. Steve Garcia just beat Kyle Nelson, who was supposed to fight Calvin Kattar. Steve Garcia better get a ranked opponent next. Holy shit. I think he could be on standby even for the Ortega and Lopez fight for Noche UFC, because he's Mexican. Put him on the standby just in case. Just in case we need somebody. I want Steve Garcia. He should have been on that Noche card. Steve Garcia is one of the most fun fighters in the UFC and absolutely one of the most violent guys in the sport right now. And I really think he's hit like a stride, man. He's Greg Jackson's team's last hope. He looks awesome. And I'm thinking for Steve Garcia, somebody in the top 15 has to be next. It's got to be a big fight. It could be a Calvin Kattar. It could be a Dan Ige. There's options, but it needs to be ranked opposition. And I guess the right thing to do would probably be to bring up the rankings. I'm sorry I'm not bringing them up on screen. It's just easier for me to bring them up on my phone. I don't know. It comes up quick. I don't got to fucking go through Google. I didn't have it open before. So, in the featherweight division, number 15 is Edson Barboza. You know what? What if we did Edson Barboza versus Steve Garcia? That would be one of the most dope fights ever. That's a fight night main event. Make it 5 rounds. I will watch the hell out of that. That's a pay-per-view featured bout. Yeah, Steve Garcia should be on, I don't know, a ranked fight on a big card. Steve Garcia deserves to get a little push from the UFC now because he's got 5 straight knockouts. This dude is a monster. Steve Garcia has me as a fan, and I think everybody as his fucking fan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight knockouts. And I mean, he's on a roll right now. Look, all of his wins, dating back to 2019, all of his wins are fucking KOs. He's got 2 losses in the UFC, 6-2 in the UFC. All wins by KO. 14 knockouts as a pro. Yeah, Steve Garcia is one of the most violent guys in the damn featherweight division, maybe in the sport, actually. No, one of the most violent guys in the sport, and some of the most heavy hands at 145 pounds, too. The way he dismantled Kyle Nelson was super impressive, regardless of the, potential questionable behind the head elbow. It was still a very impressive win, and I think Steve Garcia is awesome. And yeah, give him Edson Barboza or a Dan Ige, something major. Steve Garcia deserves somebody ranked, or Calvin Kattar even. Do it. That's what I want. Kyle Nelson was looking past him, too. Kyle Nelson mentioned Calvin Kattar's name earlier this week. I'm like, you don't look past Steve Garcia. Big mistake. And he gets finished in the first round. Canadian MMA is dead. Co-main event of the evening, Natália Silva versus Jessica Andrade. Natália Silva did her thing. I mean, Andrade had a couple moments. She landed a big hook, a few big hooks. And Natália Silva kind of kept her at bay, throwing good strikes from the outside, nice kicks, nice jabs, defending takedowns. Natália Silva looked incredibly quick, and the fight actually played out 99% exactly of how I thought it would when I saw it in my mind beforehand, that the angle cutting, speed, and distance striking of Natália would be the ultimate difference maker against a very good pressure brawler in Jessica Andrade, but she doesn't really have any other option here. She's not going to out-wrestle Natália Silva. I don't really think she had a great chance of doing a fucking standing arm triangle here. Obviously, it didn't happen. And Natália Silva did work from the outside and got a hard-fought win. Sure, Andrade had moments, and I think Andrade still has some fight left in her. I definitely don't think retirement's coming for Andrade or anything like that, but this win for Natália was mega. She struck well from the outside. She picked her shots nicely. She evaded some heavy pressure and uncomfortable moments from Andrade. And she gets her hand raised by a unanimous decision. Well-deserved unanimous decision. I was very happy to see it. So, shout out Natália Silva getting an A-tier win against a former world champion in Jessica Andrade. And I think that Natália Silva's in a great position to fight some of the elite. Now, she did go as far as to call for the belt. That's not happening next because flyweight's kind of a logjam. But she beat number 6, Jessica Andrade. I don't think it's crazy to say that she fights the Rose Namajunas and Erin Blanchfield winner. I don't think it's crazy if they potentially put her in a fight against Macy Barber. Those are the names that she deserves next. She's like 1/2 fights away from fighting for a belt. And I mean, if she went out there and got an impressive finish of one of those top guys in the world, who knows? She could potentially jump the line. Either way, Natália Silva's got some skills, man. And this was a massive W for the 27-year-old, who also has a ton of fights. 18-5-1 at 27 is pretty fucking crazy. I mean, I know it's kind of blurred because you have Zhu Rong and fucking Yizha with like 30 fights in their 20s. But Natália Silva is very crafty and experienced too, with like nearly 25 pro fights. That's pretty wild. 24? That's insane. So Natália Silva at 27 years old, just now coming into her prime. I look forward to more. Shout out to her. Big W. Let's talk the main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash the likes. And if you're new, subscribe. It's Sean Brady versus Gilbert Burns. And Sean Brady did his thing. He got the unanimous decision. I actually predicted this perfectly. I was pretty grateful about it. The unanimous decision win for Sean Brady. Official prediction and official outcome. I'm not trying to flex too hard. I know he's the favorite coming in, but still, like, it went how I kind of envisioned it. Sean Brady's boxing looked fairly good. He kind of reminds me of Bilal a little bit. He then was able to land a few takedowns on a fatigued Gilbert Burns, and Gilbert Burns was doing what I thought. Looking for one big punch, because all he does is look for one big looping shot. He doesn't set up shit. He does not throw a jab. He doesn't feint much. There's really nothing but a huge shot or his grappling skills. And Sean Brady is a high-level black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's got better straight punches than Gilbert Burns, and he was able to outbox him for most of the fight and outwork him against the cage and land takedowns late and out-grapple him a little bit. So pretty much checkmate of exactly of what I thought would potentially happen. Now, I'm going to also say some things about Gilbert Burns some of you might not like to hear. At 38, I do think he slowed down. Now, I saw him take the gloves off, but he didn't lay him down. I don't know. Is he retiring? I don't know. I had a massive dono drop during the live stream around the time that Sean Brady finished his interview. So if there was a potential Gilbert Burns retirement, it went over my head. I don't think he did. But now I got to fucking double check. Because I don't want to be the moron that's like, no, Gilbert Burns retired. You didn't give him any praise? Okay, let's find out. Did he retire? Yeah, he didn't retire. He did not retire, but it looked like he took the gloves off, though. Yeah. No retirement. Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to double check. I'm double checking heavy. Gilbert Burns is not amongst the elite anymore, but he's still really good. But it's just, he doesn't have that same explosiveness and speed that he once had. So relying so heavily on one-punch power in his grappling is not going to work against one of these well-versed guys like a Sean Brady, who's in his prime at 31, getting better with every damn fight, and looking like he's a problem at 170 pounds. He called out Ian Gary, actually, because they both have the same manager. Bro, the UFC is keeping Ian Gary far away from Sean Brady. They don't want Ian Gary's stock to get smashed when Sean Brady wrestle fucks him. Instead, I think Sean Brady, I don't know, he's in like the hard route. Now I got to fucking look at the rankings again. Who's he going to fight? I don't even know. Off the top of my head, I don't know. Welterweight. So he just beat number 6, Gilbert Burns. He was number 8. Ian Gary's going to be 7 behind him. I mean, in a perfect world, Sean Brady and Colby Covington, but they won't do that because fucking Colby has Dana White privilege. If Shavkat and Jack Della don't fight, maybe a Jack Della fight. They might make him wait a little while. I mean, sensibly, it's Colby Covington or Ian Gary next. But I don't know for sure the route that the UFC is going to go down because Ian Gary and Colby Covington both have that Dana White privilege where they're kind of spoon-fed matchups, you know, that are kind of favorable towards them. Like, don't be surprised if Joaquin Buckley knocks out Wonderboy and then Colby fights a fucking Wonderboy and wrestle fucks him. You get what I mean? Maybe Joaquin Buckley, if he knocks out Wonderboy, is going to end up calling out Sean Brady and looking for that fight. But I think the UFC might be interested in potentially doing the winner of Buckley and Wonderboy versus the likes of Ian Gary, right? They might want to match the strikers up. So Sean Brady's going to be in a weird spot. I don't know if they'll give him Jack Della. I doubt they'll give him Shavkat, but maybe that makes sense. It's always interesting to see the route because, like, if I'm the matchmaker, I don't know. The financial side of it is not, you know, written out for me. If they're like, okay, we can make this much if we match up these guys on a big card and it's going to sell a pay-per-view. And yeah, Sean Brady in a fight against Ian Gary probably out-wrestles him for 3 rounds. And, you know, it's not really that sellable. So I guess I get the, you know, matchmaking has to be a little bit business-sided, not necessarily who deserves X, Y, and Z fight. In a perfect world, it's probably Sean Brady versus Ian Gary, right? Or it's probably Sean Brady versus Colby Covington. That makes a lot of sense. And Jack Della Maddalena and Shavkat should be fighting, right? And maybe Usman then would have to fight somebody like a Shavkat JDM winner. But that's not how it works, man. That's not how the matchmaking goes with the UFC. So there's some more steps than just simple math with getting these UFC fights made. So I don't know the exact direction with Brady. I do know that Burns is in a spot where he could consider retirement. He's got a couple more. I don't know, somebody towards the back end of the top 15. I'm looking at it. I mean, do they do Gilbert Burns, Michael Morales, and just throw Gilbert Burns, another hard matchup versus a prospect on the come up? Do they do Gilbert Burns versus Michael Venom Page? Is Jeff Neal booked? Jeff Neal's fighting Dos Anjos. Maybe the Dos Anjos Jeff Neal loser versus Gilbert Burns, specifically even just the Jeff Neal fight. I don't know what the UFC is going to do. This is the issue with this fucking Dana White privilege on some of these guys, though, that they get. Is now Colby Covington, he's ranked, but he's in this position where, no, I call for my fights. I have all this say. When he shouldn't have shit. He's never been a fucking world champion, and he's not a star. He's fairly popular to shit on, if anything. And that's a hot take, but it's true, and many of you will agree. Huge win for Sean Brady no matter what. Let's not look too far forward because I'm just getting pissed off thinking about the potential hiccups and him getting, you know, big fights that he deserves. And for Gilbert Burns, maybe fun fights are left over, but he's no longer a top contender. Sean Brady definitely is. And I'm telling you, he reminds me of Bilal. He's like Bilal light. He's like a little bit less than Bilal. Maybe a Bilal rematch down the line is going to happen. UFC Vegas 97, that was the card. I do want to go over the picks, and I got to flex it. 10 wins and 2 losses. I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with the results. The picks were pretty on point. I hit with the first fight of the night. I had Nathan Fletcher by sub. André Petroski wins, confident pick in the second. Amorim by armbar, perfect prediction in the third, confident pick. Santos to lock gets the win over Yizha. André Lima by decision, perfect pick there. And I thought it would go over 2.5, money call. Isaac Dulgarian gets the win. That's a win there. Now I picked Rongzhu, but did I fucking confident pick him? No, but I still picked him. I still took an L there. I picked Trevor Peak, but I told you, I'm biased, and I like the over. And it went over. Look at that. I had Cody Durden over Schnell. Had Garcia by knockout over Nelson, which was a money call. Had Silva by decision over Andrade, which is the money call. And had Sean Brady by decision over Burns, which is the money call. So, yeah, big W night. 10 wins, 2 losses, and pretty much all the picks are perfectly predicted. So I would say fuego for myself. Not to pat myself on the back too much. I hope you guys appreciate the content, though, because I appreciate you guys. Thank you all for support. And like I said, it was like a record-breaking donation live stream. The Fight Companion was off the chain. So thank you guys so much for that. I love each and every one of you. I'll see you all for the UFC Noche predictions, which I'll be dropping today's the 8th of September. I'll be dropping them later today. So keep your eyes out for that full card breakdown. Much love to each and every one of you. Big W's to all of you. Smash the like button on your way out and make sure to subscribe if you're new. And definitely let me know in the comments what you thought of the picks and the fights and the week's worth of content. And if you got nothing to say, but you just want to support me and boost the algorithm, drop a W in the chat for your boy. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great night. See you all on the next one. Peace out.